My topic today is on intellectual disability. The definition according to the American Psychiatric Association, intellectual disability involves problems with general mental abilities that affect functioning in two areas. That includes intellectual functioning such as learning or reasoning, adaptive functioning such as activities of daily life such as communicating and independent living. It also includes conceptual, social, and practical skills. Conceptual would include language, reading, writing, math, reasoning, knowledge, and memory. Social would include empathy, social judgment, communication skills, the ability to follow rules, and the ability to make and keep friendships. And finally, practical would include independence in areas such as personal care, job responsibilities, managing money, recreation, and organizing school and work tasks. The major difference between intellectual disabilities and other disabilities is the age of onset and the IQ requirements, defined by an IQ score under 70 plus deficits. Also, some people with intellectual disabilities may have more than one disability. The major differences in the age of onset, the severity of limitations, and the fact that the developmental disability definition does not refer to an IQ requirement. Many individuals with intellectual disability will also meet the definition of developmental disability, or also called DD. However, it is estimated that at least half of the individuals with intellectual disability will not meet the functional limitation requirement in the DD definition. The DD definition requires substantial functioning limitations in 3 or more areas of the major life activity. The intellectual disability definition requires significant limitations in one area of adaptive behavior. Some of the symptoms would include delays in reaching or failure to achieve milestones in motor skills development, slowness in reading, to talk or continue, difficulty with speech, difficulty with self-care, poor planning or problem solving, and difficulty understanding or following social rules. Evidence of the disability during the developmental period, which in the U.S. is operationalized as before the age of 18. The term intellectual disability has changed over time, and although the name has changed, the 3 essential elements of the definition have not changed. The term we know today as an intellectual disability was commonly primarily known as mental retardation. And although the name has changed, the US-based definition for this condition has not changed. The behavioral limitations in adapting to environmental demands and the early age on onset. Until Rose's Law was signed into law by President Obama in October 2010, IDEA used the term mental retardation instead of intellectual disability. Rose's Law changed the term to be used in the future to intellectual disability. The definition itself, however, has not changed. The oldest psychological view of intellectual disability is in the writings of Hippocrates in the late 5th century BCE. In the early 20th century, the eugenics movement became popular throughout the world. It viewed intellectual disabilities as a negative thing that people could not live with. It was a movement where many people with intellectual disabilities were institutionalized. The first definition of the condition focused on a failure to adapt socially to the environment. Later definitions added medical approach that considered heredity and pathology and called for individuals with intellectual disabilities to be segregated. The rise of the cognitive testing movement brought an emphasis on measure intellectual functioning by IQ test. The IQ test became the way to define the group and classify the people within it. It is important to note that the 1992 definition was the first to view intellectual disability as a condition that could be enhanced by provision of supports rather than as a statistic lifelong disability. Some of the factors may include there are many different causes of intellectual disability. It can be associated with genetic syndromes such as Down syndrome, Fragile X syndrome. It may develop following an illness such as meningitis, whooping cough, or measles, may result from head trauma during childhood, or may result from exposure to toxins such as lead or mercury. Other factors that might contribute to intellectual disability include brain malformation, maternal disease, and environmental influences such as alcohol, drugs, or other toxins. A variety of labor and delivery related events, infection during pregnancy, and problems at birth, such as not getting enough oxygen, can also contribute. Intellectual disability is more prevalent in boys than in girls. 75 to 90% of affected people have mild disability. It is estimated that 7 to 8 million, or 3% of Americans, have intellectual disability. 1 in 10 families in the U.S. are affected by a person with ID at some point of their life, and in 2003-2004, 9.6 students received special education services based on classification of intellectual disabled. Two instructional strategies that can help students with intellectual disabilities are systematic instruction and pictorial self-instruction. Systematic instruction, which originates from the principles of applied behavior analysis, has a strong evidence base spanning more than 60 years, supporting the teaching of community and daily living skills. An example would be students teaching symbols and word recognition to students with moderate intellectual disabilities using constant time, delay, and differential reinforcement. Pictorial that include subjects to work, what I will do, and what I did. Several studies have taught students with severe disabilities to independently use pictured activity schedules to complete tasks. Some of the websites for teachers that I found was the ARC, which provides teachers with help for students by providing information and resources needed. It also connects teachers with national networks of community-based chapters as well as webinars and toolkits for advocacy. Another website is Project Ideal, which gives teachers information on the impact of learning for students with intellectual disabilities, teaching strategies, and assistive technology. It also provides teachers with organizations that can help support classroom instruction for students with intellectual disabilities. The websites for parents include the Center for Parent Information and Resources. This website allows parents to see facts about disability, signs, diagnosis, processes, definitions of the disability. It also gives parents tips and help for babies and toddlers and school-aged children, along with real-life stories of people living with this disability. The last website is the ARC. This website gives parents a snippet of what is an intellectual disability, diagnosis, and treatment. It also helps parents connect to an online community or find a chapter so they can be involved and learn more. As you can see, I used the ARC both as a parent and a teacher website. The ARC is the world's largest community-based organization for people with intellectual disabilities and developmental disabilities. It provides an array of services and support for families and individuals that includes over 140,000 members affiliated through more than 850 state and local chapters across the nation. The ARC is devoted to promoting and improving supports and services for all people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And that is the end of my PowerPoint. Thank you guys for listening.